Hello, everybody. Welcome to Priceff's fifth anniversary seminar. My name is Heikki Lummaa. I'm the CEO of the company since June, and I'm really happy to see so many of you participating. And we actually have participants from many countries here, so really nice to see all of you here. I'll be going through a few practicalities first, and then present the program, and then tell a bit about the company before we go to the actual topics. So this will be recorded, and as you can see, you don't see each other as participants. You can only see us panelists and the people who will be presenting. If you have any questions, you have two different ways to ask those. One is to use the chat button, and that means that everybody in the seminar will be seeing what you ask and also seeing your name that you have there, or you can use the Q&A button and ask us. Then our colleagues here, Jens, who will be moderating, he will see your questions and ask those from us. It's possible that we have a very tight schedule here, so it's possible that we don't have time for all of the questions to answer them during the seminar. So please then make sure your name is visible there so we can get back to you later on those. This is kind of a new concept for us as well, to do a birthday or a seminar in this compact manner. We were planning this as a face-to-face event, full day or at least the afternoon. But the COVID situation in the world, as you all know, has lived so much that we decided to do this online. And then we decided to try something new and make it very compact. So we have a great list of presenters here, and we'll just try to stay very focused here. But of course, if you have questions, please ask those and we'll manage how to answer those along the way. So welcome and enjoy the conference. Okay, click here. So it's my words here in the beginning. Then we have Alexander MacKay from Harvard Business School talking a bit about pricing and competition and sharing on his research as well. You can see Alexander's video over there already as well. Then we have the founder of Priceff, Anders, talking a bit how we see where dynamic pricing is going in the world right now. Then our beloved customer Kotipizza, their CEO Tommi Tervanen is here, and he'll tell a bit about their digitalization journey, where we've been one part as well. And then last but not the least, we have Tiina, my colleague here, will be doing a birthday toast at the end. So a few words about Priceff to begin with. How this whole thing started. Anders, his background is very much on finance research, stock market, and he started that journey around 2002. So it was very much stock market, not so much real life pricing yet at that stage. Then meanwhile, his focus switched a bit, and he also saw in a very practical life situation that maybe the real life could utilize some of the dynamics of the stock market pricing, where the price really represents the demand and the supply of a certain moment all the time. And that's where he got the idea that should we or could we build something that really works in real life here as well. Some time went as it usually happens with great ideas, and Anders started the journey to get the patent, or the journey for the algorithm and this whole concept what we do around 2010. And the patent was approved in the US 2016 for this whole approach, and it was still further developed in 2017. And our company was founded. The statutes of our company have been written 22nd of June 2016. So we are a bit more than 5 years old already today, as it was already in June. So that's the old history there. What has happened kind of customer-wise and product-wise, the actual commercial product or its development started around 2017 to 2018, and we got the first commercial customers from 2018 onwards. And the journey in the beginning was very much developing the product together with the customers and evolving it all the time further. Along the time, we've gathered a very nice list of customers already. Here are the public references. In addition to these, we have some whose name we cannot publish, but are still very happy, luckily. And we have a very nice list of pilots just starting or having started already. And this fall looks very nice for us in terms of our pipeline and how we will grow from now on. So that was actually what I wanted to say on Priceff and where we are today, what we do. Of course, if you don't know us as a customer, we are very happy to talk with you one-to-one and go deeper into these topics. But then I'd welcome Alex to share his views on pricing and competition. So the floor is yours, Alex, and Mikko, of course, you will manage that Alex is able to present here.
Thank you, Heikki. Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to be giving a talk about some of my academic research, but a little bit of background on me. You know, I'm an economist that studies pricing and competition questions, and I've actually been working with Priceff on a research project through the generous sort of sponsorship of Kotipizza, who's been willing to share their data for some really interesting analyses we've been doing from an academic angle, in addition to, you know, a business angle. So I'm not going to talk about that today, but I just want to give a little bit of the background of my relationship with Priceff, and you'll be hearing from Tommi at Kotipizza a little bit later. And so I'm just really excited to be here. I think this is a really exciting space, and I absolutely believe that dynamic pricing and sort of smart pricing more generally is going to really have important impacts on the way that people do business. I'm going to talk about that today. So what am I going to talk about for the most part? Well, I'm going to give a talk about some of my academic research. This is from a working paper with Zach Brown, my co-author, and the topic is competition and pricing algorithms. But to give you all a high-level perspective of what that is, we're looking at differences in pricing technology across firms. So this might matter to you from the standpoint of, you know, where are you in your relative position of your pricing technology with your rivals? And what happens if you maybe gain an advantage in terms of pricing technology? We're going to think about the implications of different pricing technologies on the strategic interaction with rivals. And implicitly, we're going to think about the impact on profits. And moreover, we're going to sort of address one angle of this, you know, the element for dynamic pricing, but you can think about this also as an invitation for further discussion, because I think there are a lot of interesting issues when it comes to, you know, pricing technology, and we're only sort of beginning to crack the surface on all the possibilities that we could really unlock with this technology. I'll also say from a technical standpoint, really quick, if I look small and my slides look small, go ahead to view and change your view from gallery view to speaker view, and that should make everything much bigger if you haven't done that already. So let me jump into it. The motivation for our project is to think about online competition. You know, initially online markets, and we're thinking particularly of the setting of online markets, because there's an expectation they deliver near perfect competition and prices. You can think about going online, search costs are low, it's easy to go to different retailers. This should lead to perfectly competitive prices. It's been well documented that this just is not exactly the case. So there's a large degree of price dispersion across firms. You go to different retailers, you get different prices. There's also increasing dominance by certain firms. Within the US, Amazon is expected to clear 50% of all e-commerce revenue this year. And so it doesn't really match the expectations that people had initially when online marketplaces were starting out. And we want to ask the question, what role do pricing algorithms play in these trends? Could pricing algorithms lead to higher prices for some firms, or possibly even for all firms? And how exactly might that come about? And what we're going to focus on in our study is these key features of pricing algorithms, which are both pricing frequency, how quickly, at what pace can you update your prices, and also this ability to commit to a pricing rule in the short run. And what we're going to find through our analysis is that even very simple pricing rules or pricing algorithms can really change the nature of competition. And it's really driving from these features of frequency and short run commitment, as I'll talk about in a second. Just to give you some intuition, if we look at third-party pricing software, and I think even many of you are familiar with this if you looked around the market, they're really excited about frequency, right? So this woman is super excited because she has the fastest Amazon repricer on the market. She's on the Amazon marketplace and she can update prices faster than everyone else. So this is one third-party pricing platform that really pushes the pace of pricing as a key feature. And in fact, if you look on their features pages, and this is not an endorsement for this company, I'm just highlighting common features to all pretty much all pricing solutions. For $80 a month, you can get prices that update every hour. But for $250 a month, you can upgrade your frequency to get instant repricing. And so there's a cost benefit analysis here. What am I gaining from faster pricing? Is it worth the additional, nearly $200 a month? There are some other features that I want to highlight here too, in addition to pricing frequency. Commitment, so you get to pick what repricing rule you want to set. And you can also, and this is important in a lot of different places, you can also track what your competitors are doing and adjust your prices accordingly. So all these features of pricing algorithms that are built in may actually impact ultimately the prices that are set in the market. And that's what we're going to look at. So what do we do in our study? Well, we collect high frequency data from 5 different major online retailers in the United States. We're going to show that firms have differences in pricing technology and that these differences are actually correlated with price levels. So what we find is that firms with superior technology have relatively lower prices in general, okay? And then we're going to develop a model of price competition that incorporates both frequency and short-run commitment based on what we find in the data. We're going to allow for differences in technology across firms, and we're going to show that algorithms can actually lead to higher prices for firms, even without collusion. So some of you may be familiar with some perspectives on how algorithms can lead to collusion, and that could be actually pretty worrisome because you don't want to sign up for something and worry about potentially antitrust coming at you or competition policy. But there's actually some ways that smart pricing can actually deliver better pricing, higher prices without collusion. And that's what we're going to look at here. And that's what we're going to talk about. And so then we're going to take a first step towards measuring the impact of algorithms. And the way we're going to do that is use a simulation to simulate counterfactual prices, that's alternative prices that would have resulted under alternative pricing technologies. And so by comparing price levels, with algorithms to price levels sort of without algorithms, we can get a measure of the impact on algorithms through an econometric simulation. So that's what we're going to do. And we have a lot of details in the paper, so I'm going to give you some kind of high-level points and then just go through some of our main findings. I don't have time today, obviously, to talk about everything we do exactly in the paper. But to give you the key intuition here, why might algorithms raise prices? Well, let's assume there's one sophisticated online retailer, and this retailer has automated software that scrapes its rivals' prices and follows a pricing rule that quickly reacts to any price changes by the rivals, okay? So just hypothetically assume this retailer exists. Well, think about from the rival's perspective, this is going to discourage the rivals from reducing prices, because I know that any price cut I make might be immediately matched by my rival through the presence of their algorithm. Where the logic might be without the algorithm, I can cut my price and gain some share. Here, the algorithm takes that ability away. So this is in equilibrium, it's going to turn out to soften price competition, potentially leading to higher prices for all firms. Intuitively, you may have heard this in different settings. You may hear about some firms sort of giving up on price competition and trying to compete, via other means, say by quality or service. And so thinking about sort of the competitive impacts, just even having one retailer adopt this sophisticated pricing technology can actually have some pretty big implications for its rivals and how they compete in price. Okay, so that's kind of the high level intuition. Maybe outline of what I'm going to talk about, with my remaining time. I'm going to give you 3 facts about online prices based on the high frequency data that we collect. I'm then going to briefly talk about the model that we use to sort of how we think about competition with differences in pricing technology. And then I'm going to close just by briefly describing how we go about our counterfactual simulation to both estimate demand in the market and then simulate prices under different technologies. So to give you a sense for our data, starting with the 3 facts, we have hourly prices from 5 large online retailers. We're looking at allergy medications. And so we're looking at the largest brands for allergy medications in the US. This is Allegra, Benadryl, Claritin, et cetera. We have 18 months of data from 2018 to 2019, 3.6 million price observations. And when we're thinking about a product in our data set, we're thinking about a very specific package or SKU. So we're looking essentially at identical SKUs across websites and comparing the price levels for those units. To give you a sense of what our data looks like, here's the prices for one product. This is an 80 count of Xyzal tablets at 2 different retailers. The red line shows the prices for retailer A over time, and the blue line shows the prices at retailer D. And what you can see here right off the bat, it's apparent that retailer A and retailer D have very different pricing technologies. Retailer A has price changes all the time, potentially almost every hour, in a lot of the observations in our data. Retailer D has these much more regular price changes that occur at less frequent intervals. The other thing you'll notice is retailer A's prices are a lot lower than retailer D's prices for the exact same products. Here we're looking at, $35 to $40 for the package. And here we're looking more at an average of $25. So that's a pretty big discount. And it's only, a couple clicks away at major online retailers. So we're going to use our entire data set to examine how systematic are these patterns. Is this just true for this one particular product, or is this true across sort of all the products in the category that we observe? And so we're going to present those as sort of 3 facts. So the first fact is that firms have differences in technology. And the way that we're going to characterize those differences in technology is in a very specific way. It's that they update their price at regular intervals, but those intervals may differ widely across firms. Now, anecdotally, you may know this. You may know some firms that run an update script once a week and another that run their update script maybe once every 5 minutes. We're just documenting that that's sort of systematic in the same market here for the same set of products. And the way we're going to show that is we're going to look at the distribution of when firms change price across every hour of the week. So up top here, we have basically the density of price changes or the frequency of price changes by every hour of the week at retailers A and B. And what you'll see are just kind of stable lines across, indicating that price changes occur sort of uniformly throughout the week at any given hour. If you compare that to the lines for retailer C, you'll see spikes in the morning and then no changes for the rest of the day. So whereas A and B have sort of flexible technology that can change price at any time, retailer C has a pricing update script that runs once a day in the morning where they update all their prices and then they don't update again until the next day. And then you compare that to retailer E and D, and they have spikes only Sundays at midnight. And so retailer D and E actually run their pricing update scripts only once a week around midnight. And then the rest of the week, they don't change their prices. So this is just one way of visually capturing the different technology available to firms: flexible pricing, daily pricing, or weekly pricing. What we're also going to show is that retailers with faster pricing technology react to the price change of slower firms. Okay, so this is sort of from the question of, well, do these algorithms seem to incorporate the information from rivals' prices? And we think there's reason for them to, and we're just going to document that they do in the data. And the way that we do that is we track products that have a price change at slow firms. What I've shown here is, whenever there's a change at retailer D, and then we look at, what rate do the faster firms change their prices during those weeks. And so what you see here is a dashed line is the cumulative price changes by retailer A during weeks that there's no price change for that particular product at the slow rival. And then the solid line gives the cumulative price changes during weeks where the slow rival does change their price. What we'll see is that when slow rivals change their prices, both retailer A and retailer B change their prices more often in those weeks. So this is just indicative that there's something they are picking up information in the price change by the slower rival, and that's updating their algorithm and generating extra price changes compared to a week that they don't change prices. So faster firms respond to slower firms' prices. And then the third fact, and this we found particularly interesting, firms with faster pricing technology have persistently lower price for identical products. So firms with superior technology have lower prices. And a way we can show this is we just look at the average price level for every specific product. So, and we looked at across all retailers. And so we index them all to retailer A at 100. And so this y-axis gives you the average price index. The x-axis gives sort of the pricing frequency. The scale is reversed so that retailer A has the fastest technology with changes every hour. B has the second fastest with changes every 2 hours. C has changes every day, and D and E have changes every week, as I've described. But the prices at retailers D and E are on average 30% higher than the prices at retailer A. And you actually see this monotonic relationship between sort of pricing technology and prices. Okay, so those stylized facts sort of indicate the differences in technology we see in the market and also differences in price levels. So why might this be the case? We're going to use these facts to inform our model of competition and algorithms and try to understand why this could happen. And I'm not going to give you the exact details of the model, but I want to sort of give you a roadmap of how it works. Well, and the way we think about it is think about timing of price changes based on different pricing technology within a week. And here, for example, we have 3 different firms. Here you have the start of the week, here you have the end of the week. Suppose you have one firm that changed their price just once a week at the beginning. This firm changes their prices twice a week at the beginning and the middle of the week. And this firm changes their price 3 times a week, once, twice, 3 times. And then we can think about, well, what impact does that have on pricing incentives? And from firm one's perspective here, they know they might change their price. And regardless of what firm 2 sets at this period, they have a chance to update their price in the middle of the week. And again, we come back to the intuition of what impact does that have on firm one's incentive to set price? Well, they know that firm 2 can always undercut them later. You know, maybe it's a day from now, maybe it's an hour from now, and that's going to change their incentive to choose a lower price. We're also going to allow for the fact that firms can set not just prices, but they can set pricing rules to automatically update prices throughout the week. And so we indicate that in this plot by just thinking of hollow circles where there's no human intervention to change what those prices could be. It's just done by an automated pricing rule. And that can actually have different effects depending on what a rival does. So we talk about that in the paper. Again, I'm not going to go into the details today. But what I will say is that this model can generate this prediction. And then, so here, what I have plotted here are price levels. And then on the x-axis, I have the pricing frequency for 3 different firms, firm 1, firm 2, and firm 3, where firm 3 has the fastest technology and firm 1 has the slowest technology. And so this relationship is exactly alike to the relationship we saw in the data, where the fastest firms have consistently lower prices. And this is totally consistent with the fastest firms threatening to undercut their slower rivals and elevating the price of the slower rivals. What's also interesting in our model is with this dashed line, we've drawn the prediction, what if there were no differences in pricing technology across firms, i.e. everyone updated price at the same frequency, fast or slow, doesn't really matter. And the dashed line shows that those price levels would actually be lower for all firms. So even though the fastest firm here has the lowest prices, it's still benefiting by getting a higher price relative to a world where everyone has the same pricing technology. So this is sort of we think a really interesting finding. And what we're going to do then is use our data that we've collected to basically, and it's a very rough quantification exercise, but we have a bunch of data on prices and price levels. We have some information on sort of aggregate market shares, how much do each of these retailers sell in the allergy markets. And so what we're going to do is estimate, well, what does consumer demand look like for each of these retailers? And in our data, and not just in a numerical theoretical model, in our data, what's the potential price impact of these differences in pricing technology? And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to calibrate a demand system, an econometric demand system, to the data in our model. We're going to estimate own price and cross price demand elasticities. And basically what we're going to get is price cost margins between 0.46 and 0.6, depending on the retailer, with elasticities ranging from -2 to -1.7. So we're going to have the faster firms, firm A, have more elastic customers, and the slower firms have less elastic customers. So we have some flexibility on the demand patterns here. And what we're going to find is we're going to simulate alternative prices if everyone had the same technology. So this would be, say, okay, let's give everyone daily pricing or everyone weekly pricing. And that's going to generate markups that are over here in this column. We get an aggregate markup of 1.97. That's price over cost. In our data, again, in our estimates, the aggregate markup is about 2.07. So this means that the algorithm technology that we observe based on our simulation is increasing prices or markups by 5.2%. And we think this is actually, this is a pretty big number. This translates to a 10% increase in profits for these firms in a really large market. And it's a pretty competitive market too. I mean, these are the 5 largest retailers, but there are other retailers that do sell these products. And so through these counterfactual simulations, we're able to measure, what's the impact to each firm of these pricing technology. And we actually see the firm that benefits the most in terms of profits is the firm with the fastest technology, firm A. So their markup goes up by 5%, as you can see here, but their profits actually go up by 22% in this market. So they're seeing a really big impact on profits by adopting this faster pricing technology, by being the leader in terms of pace. So I just want to give a few concluding thoughts. First, we're just highlighting the fact that firms have different pricing technology, but also these relative positions may actually be quite important from a strategic perspective. Superior technology in the data is correlated with lower prices, but possibly higher profits. Pricing algorithms can actually change the nature of competition with rivals, where equilibrium prices depend both on your frequency and your ability to commit. And so I just want to close by saying, investments in pricing technology could have some unintended consequences that may be good or bad. We have to think about the strategic implications of those. So thank you very much. And happy to take any questions you might have, either in this session later or feel free to email me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was really great insights from your research, and interesting to see also as a pricing technology vendor on how the frequency impacts the profits. That was a really interesting conclusion there. Thank you. We didn't have any questions now online, and also please feel free to send them directly to Alex, or if you send them through us, we will of course deliver those to Alex if you didn't catch his email that was just on the slide. But we're happy to deliver if you have any, or happy to connect you also with Alex later if you want to discuss with him more in person. Great, thank you, Alex. I would then give the floor to our Anders and his view on dynamic pricing. And so please, Anders, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Heikki. I hope you can hear me well. Good. And thanks, Alex. That's a fantastic presentation. You make me a bit nervous. I'm hoping that you're not making me look bad. So Alex was talking about research, and Tommi will be talking about business, which really leaves anecdotes for me to talk about. So what I'll do now is that I'll focus on a few anecdotes which have which we have crossed during these years. Let's see. There you go. So some 20 years ago, when I was taking my PhD, one of my PhD's fellow students told me about his finance professor. I'm not sure whether this is a true story or not, but it doesn't really matter because it's the anecdote which matters in this context. So he told me that his professor had discovered in the 80s, I actually checked, it was in 1983 that they introduced text TV in Finland. He had discovered that he could now follow stock prices almost in real time. I'm not sure whether they were delayed 15 minutes or whatever, but intraday still. But banks were actually buying and selling stocks to and from retail clients based on the closing price from the day before. And this, of course, created an opportunity, because if, let's say that the commission was 1% to buy and 1% to sell, so 2%-ish was the commission, and he could then follow which stocks went up more than 2% for the day. He could buy them at yesterday's close, and then of course the following day he could go and sell them back at a price which was higher than 2%. So he would make a kind of almost certain profit, given that they didn't change the rules, which we usually call an arbitrage in the financial markets. Now, this of course is a funny story. I remember laughing about it, and it seems almost too good to be true these days. I'm not sure whether it was true or not, but this is actually something we see in the real economy still, and we see it quite a lot. So we see goods and services being sold at prices which are simply too low or too high, which basically creates a similar arbitrage opportunity for the seller or for the buyer, depending on the situation. So, right. So what should we do? Well, I guess, the kind of intuitive thought is to say that, okay, let's just predict the price then. So what should the price be and let's set the price correct, and everything's going to be fine. Now, there's just a problem with that, and it's T, actually, you could say. So if we just formulate the a pricing function as a price being a function of information, and that information might be whatever, we would have to add a subscript T to this equation, which means that the price tomorrow is a function of is a function of the function tomorrow and the information tomorrow. Now, the problem, of course, is that, well, we need to figure out what we will know tomorrow. And the question is really, are we able to figure out today what we will know tomorrow? Are we able to figure out what consumers will think tomorrow, what their functions are going to be tomorrow? And as you might guess, it might seem like a simple idea enough, but the reality is quite complicated. And I think the late Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, put it quite nicely some years ago. I think this might be 10 or 15 years ago. And when he said that, there are known knowns, known unknowns, and then there are unknown unknowns. And it's the last category which tends to be the most complicated. Now, you could reformulate what he said, which, I mean, I think it's a funny anecdote, once again, what he said, but you could actually reformulate it in a more kind of statistical, mathematical way and say that there is risk, which is, the known knowns and known unknowns. That's basically, you have facts and you have risk. And then you have unknown unknowns, which is uncertainty. And the problem, of course, with uncertainty is that there is no way to model uncertainty. And that's kind of a definition thing, which goes back actually to, I think, the early 1700s. I think it was Jacob Bernoulli who formulated the law of large numbers and basically stated this. But the thing is that by definition, we are not able to predict uncertainty, and we should actually not even try to do it. However, human beings, we have a love for certainty, and we also have a great affection for thinking that we are able to predict the future, for thinking that we're able to predict stuff which can't be predicted. And here comes another anecdote. So Kenneth Arrow, who is he's a professor emeritus, and he's also a Nobel Prize winner, was working for the Weather Command in the Second World War. in the US Armed Forces, of course. And one of his jobs was to produce long-term weather forecasts, or something related to them at least. Well, what he ended up doing was that he did a basic analysis. So he basically correlated the forecasts with the outcomes. So if they produced, 1 or 2 month forecasts, he then investigated how well those forecasts actually matched with the outcomes. Now, what he found actually was a zero correlation. So there was no connection between those long-term weather forecasts and the outcomes, the actual outcomes. Now, this of course means, that's a problem, because it basically means that these forecasts were nonsense. They had no informational value whatsoever. Well, I guess I don't know what he thought, but I guess he thought that, well, simple enough, I'll just, report this back to the generals, and they will realize that they made a mistake. They used garbage data, and it means that they probably made some garbage decisions, and now they'll fix the data, stop using those garbage forecasts, and they will kind of do something smarter. The funniest part of this anecdote is actually the reply he got. So the reply he got from the commanding general was that he is well aware of the forecasts being no good, but he needs them for planning purposes still. And I think this is a beautiful story of denial. Even when we know that we are not able to forecast the future, we still kind of want to do it, and we hang on to it, even if all data would say the contrary. But having said this, it's not only funny, it's also quite dangerous, in my opinion, because, things might go wrong, simply. So what should we do? What should we do if we can't forecast the future? Well, what we're saying is that we should adapt to the future. So if we're not able to foresee and forecast the future, we should instead be very fast and very efficient at adapting to the future and to whatever happens, how consumer functions change, how data changes, and so forth. Now, I have another anecdote, and this is from our first pilot, which we did in Naantali, the Naantali Spa, which is in southwestern Finland. And we actually, we priced the spa entrances 50 days in a row. And before our first pilot, the price had been fixed. It had been 20 euros, if I'm not mistaken. And during our pilot, we let it vary between 15 and 24 euros. And we didn't really know anything, because we didn't have any prior data, because our solution had never been tested with real people, with real data before. Of course, simulations, but who knows about them? And I was a bit nervous about it. We ran the pilot 50 days, and then I looked at the data afterwards. Of course, I kind of knew that it seemed to be working, because they were telling us that it seems to make sense. When the spa is crowded, the price is high, and when the spa is empty, the price is low, and it kind of seemed to make sense. However, of course, I was a bit concerned. I was concerned that I would also find a zero correlation, and I would have to realize that I'd made a mistake, that this approach of pricing, which I had invented, did actually not work. Well, fortunately, I didn't find zero correlation. Instead, I found a very highly significantly positive correlation, which basically means when we look at the data afterwards, you have the number of visitors at the spa on the x-axis, and you have the average, the ex post, the average price for that day on the y-axis. So this basically means that what we were expecting and hoping for is that when there is more visitors in a day, there would be a higher average price. However, this would of course require the algorithm to be able to sniff out before the day is closed that there will be higher demand, and set the price higher before it's too late. Well, what we found was a very high positive correlation, and everything seemed fantastic. There was just one problem, and I'm certain you can detect that problem yourselves. So there's a huge outlier in our picture. You can see that the one day there was more than 350 visitors at the spa. Well, fortunately, the average price, the ex post average price, was almost at maximum, which is good. But however, this kind of, well, it kind of, I had many warning lights lighting up, because first of all, I suspect that there's something wrong with the data. There might be something fishy in this data, that this is actually not true. I checked it and they said it's true. There was one day like that. Second of all, it of course dilutes my correlation. So you can see that I've implemented a quadratic correlation here, and it's kind of partially because I wanted to adjust a bit for the outlier. The thing is that, if you would remove the outlier, you would get a really nice linear correlation for the rest of the observations. Well, this was just background. Now comes the anecdote. So the funniest thing about this story and this anecdote is that I only found out 1.5 or 2 years later what actually happened on that day. So it's a true observation. There was actually 350 plus people come to the spot that day. But the reason was that a water pipe burst in Naantali city on that day. When people were not able to shower at home, there was suddenly a huge surge in demand for spa services. And this is really, really, really cool and nice and neat. I didn't realize how cool it was then, because this event, a water pipe bursting, which in Finland, I would say is something which has never happened, at least in my experience, it's a black swan event. It's uncertainty. It's something which simply cannot be predicted. There's no way to set a probability for a water pipe bursting in your neighborhood, I would say in Finland at least. It's so uncommon. It's such a rare event. And the thing is that our way of measuring demand somehow magically had sniffed out early enough that there's something happening today. There is way too much demand, and it had raised the price so that we were able to score an average price which was fairly close to the maximum price which was possible. And this is kind of, I think, one of the nicest way to explain what adaptation and what our approach is all about, and the kind of resilience of our approach. Right. So then, of course, we've done some other stuff as well. And as Alex mentioned, we've been studying Kotipizza's data quite a lot, and some other data. And basically, the big picture, and this is really not an anecdote anymore. The big picture is that, 10+ million prices later, it's tens of millions, but it depends on how you want to view our data. Millions of prices later, we've kind of concluded that we're able to measure demand pretty well, and kind of short-term forecast demand pretty well. So what you would see here on the left-hand side would be Kotipizza, the average price for a day, and then on the y-axis you would have the volume. So, and what you would see is that when during high volume days, this was 20 minute windows. Anyways, when there's high demand, the prices would be higher, and demand is lower, the prices would be lower. And the correlation, as you can see, is almost 1. It's really highly statistically significant. So there's really a linear relationship between the price and demand. You would also see that there is some kind of skewness in the distribution, which basically relates to the fact that for business reasons, usually businesses want to limit the upper and lower border of the price, and that would kind of restrict the algorithm as well. Now, what does it mean? Well, it's good that we can detect demand, but of course, as business owners and operators, you would be interested in what it means. Well, it does mean many things. It has I would say it has first and second order effects. And one first order effect, which I want to kind of single out because I think it's very consistent in all our cases. And it's the fact that dynamic pricing, at least our way of doing dynamic pricing, it evens out demand. There is less volatility in demand. So you would kind of be able to serve your clients in a more efficient way. You would probably be able to serve your clients in a better way so that they would have a better experience. And then, of course, you have second order effects. So a more smooth demand or a more even demand would typically, it would also have an effect on your cost base, and it would typically also have an effect on your revenue base. Good. So back to my initial question. My topic for today was where dynamic pricing is going, and of course I talked about everything else except for that question. And of course, I'm kind of asking myself to predict the future, and I do realize that I'll probably be wrong or even very wrong. But what I'll do is that I'll just simply, because I've done it already, so I don't really have anything to lose anymore, I'll just repeat my 5-year-old prediction, which I gave to the BBC and to the British public, and say that probably within 5 years or so, most services, most products which are competitive will be priced dynamically. And I think I might have been maybe half right, half wrong on my last prediction, but I'm hoping that I would be able to make up the rest now during the second try. And that's it for me, folks. Thanks a lot for listening, and I'll hand over to Heikki.
Thank you very much, Anders. Great to kind of see you reflecting a bit where this all started and showing some results also. And just to point out one thing, when you talked about the Kotipizza case and the prices, those prices were about the price of home delivery and the kind of the distribution of the home delivery during the week and the volatility of the home delivery. Just for the pizza people we have online here, that was the case that you might have wanted to hear here. So then it's a good bridge now to move to Tommi and Kotipizza, the CEO of our beloved customer, and Tommi will be sharing a bit their journey on digitalization. So the floor is yours, Tommi.
Thank you very much, Heikki. Hello, everyone. My name is Tommi Tervanen. I'm the pizza guy, and I'm the CEO of the Kotipizza group. And I got to say that, I feel so civilized and academic, listening with Alexander and Anders talk. And, I always find comfort that if my presentation sucks, my products always taste good. So I'm going to offer you something completely maybe different as a storytelling of how a pizza chain can really enjoy the academic world and also the new innovations that we have found from the dynamic pricing. Well, I've been working, all my life, with the foodstuffs and restaurant concepts, and I'm super keen also on the product development and research. Well, but I'm here to greet you as a customer, and I'm pleased to do that because actually digitalization means everything to us. We have always been a big fan of publishing our strategy in public and also try to give it in understandable terms. And like with our new strategy, we made a series of podcasts, so you can find them on the Kotipizza tag on the Spotify. And you'll find there, our future domains that we need firstly to understand ourselves, our staff, our franchisees, and the personnel, but also stakeholders and startup companies, so that they can much easier to contribute in our businesses in the future. And I think Priceff is a great example, that we have published a lot of our strategies, in publicly, so they have understood, the touch points that they can contribute to our businesses. Now, our business has been really successful for the last 6 years, and we've been able to grow our business for the 26 consecutive quarters. And we IPO'd in July 2015 with a market cap of 32 million euros, and January 2019, Orkla Group, the big foodstuffs company in the Nordics, acquired us from the stock market with the market cap and the valuation of 158 million. So how was this possible? Because in the beginning, it was not the case. When I took over as a CEO more than 7 years ago, 8 years, wow, time goes so quickly. We were a really traditional restaurant chain. We had those red and white checkered tablecloths. Some restaurant even have candles on the tables. And the franchisee started, the day opening the door and putting the A stand that had a printed menu on the boardwalk. Went back in and started to wait customers to come in. And the franchisee waited longer and kept on waiting. And I remember that when I took over, our same store sales were like double digit negative growth at that time. And I just simply could not keep waiting. No, the franchisees could keep waiting. So everything started with the Kotipizza's turnaround, brand turnaround. We needed to find our path again because we were lost on those fundamentals that once brought success to us. But the fundamentals changed, and we rebuilt the brand actually on two cornerstones: sustainability and digitalization. I remember being really fascinated at that time by Simon Sinek's Start With Why book, and we actually asked ourselves, the three big questions: what it is that your company is doing, and we wanted to set the bar high. We wanted to make world's best pizza, so we used a lot of fresh ingredients, locally sourced ingredients and toppings on our pizzas. And then we asked how, and we kind of to that question we replied that our biggest restaurant in the future will be in the consumer's phone, and we need to deliver the product into the consumer's doorstep. But the third question is really difficult. The question is why? Why is your company doing this? And we found that sustainability came in the large picture of our everything we do. So we come out with a statement that we'll make the world better by one pizza at a time. So we emphasize that sustainability as a long and digitalization, going forward. And since then, we have done small steps and concrete actions on kind of both routes, towards the strategy execution. And maybe the latest thing on the sustainability first, which came to and we published that in the consumers last week and 2 weeks ago, is that all the electricity to our pizza ovens will come from our own wind turbine that will be erected in 2022. And I feel that it's like the sustainability, like digitalization, that everybody can have ownership on these things. People understand, our staff understand, our franchisees understand that there is a greater purpose for everything we do. So therefore you get the ownership, therefore you get the execution also to your strategy. Similarly, our first version of online store, we had been slow launch, around 2015. The growth was not very big at that time, and but the journey actually where it is today has been super interesting, and we've been learning. And I think one of those things that stops digitalization going forward is that the CEOs and the boards are not really getting the picture how important this is, because you need to invest on certain things and investments that are millions, can be half of your EBIT or EBITDA, and you need to understand when you put your name on the check that it will bounce back to you as a profitable business. And this is something I challenge all the CEOs and board members to really understand digitalization much better. We also needed to put the digitalization in a strategic priority, so we started to hire in-house team with competencies to really build the customer experiences. And we have been also able to attract very talented people into a company like Johanna Kuosmanen, who is our digital and customer experience director, who runs this project actually with the Priceff by very solemnly and greatly. We shouldn't be shy on marketing, because marketing is the key element to communicate, these actions. Therefore, we highlighted also internally that technology is our vanguard of our actions in marketing. Not one big thing, but several small concrete steps we really take. We develop our online store step by step, improving the usage of it, and by installing ordering tracker application so that the consumers could see where the pizza is actually delivering to them online and real time. And because I believe strongly that these two touch points in the future, especially in our pizza business, will be the winning formula, is that the experience you get firstly on the mobile app, and the second thing when your doorbell is ringing and you've been handed, you've been delivered the pizza to you. Those are really big quality issues. building up, the customer experience is really experimenting with different things. And I'm not a big fan of slogans, but what I try to encourage our teams and people in the company is kind of what I have learned throughout the years of a slogan that if you're 70% sure, then go for it. And that kind of gives us the ability and kind of a mandate to operate agile, in our innovations. And we like to put, the service concepts or new features live pretty quickly. And then we tweak and iterate it, when we get the customer feedback. We have experimented also things like voice ordering app with Alexa, and we took also some augmented reality features from the big gaming companies in Finland, and of course dynamic delivery pricing. As Alexander and Anders also mentioned, more in scientific facts, but what we really created that is that we have been able to create traffic in the quiet hours, but we also been able to get the maximum price in the peak hours. Restaurant business still is quite a lot, between Friday till Sunday, and Monday till Thursday is the quiet day. So that's kind of evens out our demand also and increase the frequency and, really drive up the average ticket. And that's the key when you're working with the franchisees, as also their deliveries and their profitability is great all the time. In other words, friends, we were getting ready for the big opportunity. Now, this is important. The luck happens when opportunity meets preparations. And for us, the opportunity really came when COVID hit. Restaurants were closed, people stayed inside, and they really relied on the takeaway and delivery. And also our digital sales, if you look, the numbers, pre-COVID, I would say they were below, 20% on the digital revenue. So 3 months forward from March 2020, we saw that digital revenues were hitting 60%, and they really have stayed that high. So this is also another important kind of a key takeaway. When consumers take some service they want to scale, it happens really quickly. So in 3 months, we kind of were hitting the targets that we had set in 3 years ahead of us. Of course, we need to keep on moving. We need to keep on experimenting. And I really understand that this is a kind of a non-stopping game. It's a continuous development. And earlier this year, we, for example, launched a customer loyalty program that has exceeded our expectations. We have seen fantastic frequency there, and also a customer satisfaction level. And that's what we continue to experiment with new things and take small concrete steps also in the future. And dynamic pricing is, of course, very critical and crucial part of it. And we are recognizing that in the world of food aggregators, with the ghost kitchens coming up, with this kind of element that Priceff is offering us, we get a better and smarter grip, to be able to drive really the traffic into our restaurants. So in other words, we are preparing for the next opportunity. And of course, like to take this opportunity also to thank Priceff for the 5th year's anniversary of the company. Thank you for the great cooperation, and I can't wait the future with you guys, because I've seen it ain't gonna be boring. So I like also to thank for the audience for listening and giving me a chance as a pizza guy to share, our story, how we came up with the traditional restaurant to a digital company. And like digitalization is a continuous development, so is the pizza product development as well. So we need customers' voice. I urge you to go and eat our pizzas, enjoy them, and give me a good feedback, what you like, because we need that. We built this together. So thank you very much for everyone for listening.
Thanks a lot, Tommi. That was a really great story and a great journey. And just that for our birthday celebration today, we ordered some Kotipizza pizza, so they should be arriving in some 15 minutes. And the delivery price was $5.90, just that you know.
Thank you.
Before I give the floor to my colleague Tiina, I'll just summarize really briefly on today. So thank you for all the presenters. It's been really, really interesting to hear what you've been saying. So first of all, Alex started on the research regarding automated pricing in the retail market and how they've been comparing different pricing systems and the frequencies of doing the pricing. Really interesting learnings there. Speed does count. I know it down. Then Anders continued on the difficulty of modeling the world beforehand, so trying to kind of top down figure out how the world will look like, and instead of what we see as a better model is to really rapidly be able to adapt to the demand, and of course adapt so that you have some business goals that you want to run towards. So that was the story of our anecdotal officer Anders. And then Tommi continued just briefly what I noted down. Of course, the pizza is great. That was a very important message there. And it was also really interesting to hear how you pictured moving from like the red white tablecloths towards how that the restaurant is actually in our pockets. And I really like what you said about luck happening when the opportunity meets preparation. I'll remember that in my future career as well. For the pizza folks in the US and maybe worldwide, if you're interested in hearing more about how that has worked, and also the grocery retailers that are interested in optimizing home delivery in a similar way than what we've done with Kotipizza, we are really happy to talk more about that. We'll present still our email address at the end, but it's basically sales@priceff.com works out. If you don't remember our names, maybe you'll remember that. And an interesting other area where we have people, for example, from Denmark listening in is paddle fields, and reserving those with dynamic pricing. Paddle fields, there's a huge growth in that. I think I read somewhere that there's 11,000 paddle fields already in Spain alone. And now the fields are being built. They are filling up all the time. And at some point there will be competition, and using dynamic pricing to really, first of all, currently be able to offer enough paddle turns to the consumers is really important. And in the end, of course, to be price competitive towards the increasing competition. So if you want to talk about any of these, feel free to reach out. I see Tiina already staring at the glass of champagne. So I'll give you the floor, and we'll put our email address on the screen at the end then.
Okay, thanks Heikki. And from my behalf, warm thanks to our speakers and participants to seminar. It was great to have you all virtually involved, although to meet you in person would have been even better, but hopefully next year or next time. 5 years ago, Priceff was taking the first steps, and over these years we have seen ups and downs, mainly ups, and the future looks brighter than ever. We have tremendous opportunities for growth, to be a super company together with our customers like Kotipizza. And I think that now, on the behalf of Priceff, I thank our customers, our partners, our employees, our shareholders for this common journey. And I would like to propose a toast to Priceff and all of you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Woo! Great, Tommi, you have some there as well. Thank you. And I'd also want to thank Tiina for building the company to where we are today. I think there's a really, really great foundation. And I have to say that as a new CEO, of course, when you enter a new company, you always think that maybe there are some skeletons in the closets or you find something that is not exactly how it was, but everything is as you kind of told me in the recruiting phase. And I've been really excited that we are just together now taking the company further.
Thank you, Heikki, but we have done it together. I have not been alone here, so we have a great team here.
Yeah, we have also Mikko and Jens in the room here, but there's a lot of technology stuff here as well. So I'm not turning the camera now around, but yeah, of course it's teamwork.
Yeah. But thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll still try to get our email address, as there are some people who might not know us so well. I'll still try to share that to the screen. Let's see if I screw this up in the very last moments. Okay, and there it is. So if my name is difficult to write for somebody, there's the shorter version of sales@priceff.com as well. Hey, thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much for all of you presenters. It was great to have you here. And of course, the best thing is to be able to work with all of you as our customers, as our partners, and as our company. So thank you. And we'll enjoy some pizza soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.